Okay, welcome to the August 10th meeting of the Jersey Borough Council. And the first order of business is the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then will you read the roll?
Mayor Hillensey. Mary Kathleen here. Steve Asher.
Here.
Tom Price.
Here.
Peter Lamont.
Here. All right, we had an executive session just before this meeting to discuss legal matters. So with that, item 3 on presentations, municipal financial audit presentation, Styra Associates. And you want to do that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, turn your
Turn it
mics on, guys.
Oh, turn it on.
Turn them on, they're not even on. Just leave them on.
Good evening, I'm glad to get here. It's been a lot of years I've been honored. I need to a council meeting, so I recognize all the names and reading all the minutes. The only financial statement we do here is the annual BCED report, which is kind of cumbersome and hard to follow. So what I sent was my internal statements that I used to write these, and I showed 3 funds. That I thought was worthwhile looking at, and we tried out with everything. Look at the general fund, the Borough fund, and the liquid fuel fund. So everybody has those. It's giving us the balance. It's in the same format as the DCED report. It's just easier to read, and it's giving us a prior year balance. So that's what I did that. When I would meet with Sam and I would, this is what I go over. So the first line there is your cash. So you can see in the general fund, your cash dropped from 198 to 101, and the reason for that is we had the expenditures in the general fund exceeded the revenues by about 86,000. So I give you total assets of 101. The general fund does owe other funds money. We do move the escrow funds out of here into its own fund for the DCD report, but the big amount of that 65,000 is the loan we have to Borough funds for paying off monthly paid interest. So that leaves you with a fund balance of about 36,000, which is kind of on the low side. The second page starts your statement of revenues and expenditures, which is going to be the first area is your taxes. You can see real estate taxes dropped a little bit. Transfer taxes were up. EIT taxes, believe it or not, COVID were up. That's something that we saw pretty much everywhere we were at this past year. EIT taxes were about the same. So overall, because EIT was up, taxes were up a little. Licenses and permits, franchise fees are dropping everywhere. Alternative services. You get your fines, interests. We get our grants. And charges for services. Public safety dropped from 117 to 42,000. That's because 19 had dealt out no local projects on issues. So total revenues were about 1.5 million, down 1.52 million, down from 1.6. Then you get your governmental. And there will be an expenditures broken down by governmental, which is the office, the mayor. Those went from 278 to 385. Public safety, which is police and protective inspections, that actually dropped, and the reason there is protective inspections dropped for the same reason I mentioned permit revenue because of developments last year. Public works is down quite a bit. And doing a lot more with the fuels fund. So if we work our way through, you can see transfer on the last page. I'm at 86,000 out. Most of that's the capital fund. So overall expenditure was 1.61, which gave us a deficit over revenues of 86,000. The Borough fund, this is set aside to take care of that nature reserve. Cash is up. The reason we left Miller property last year, and then the DCNR grant that helped purchase that came this year, so that pushed your cash up from 303 to 538. Also in that number is the Raymond James account. And you kind of see next on the next page with the revenue and intergovernmental revenue, you can see that we have $210,000 grant. So the Borough fund is in pretty good shape. Total revenues of 302. So that had about 230,000 profit. And why I like to look at these separate, because on the DCD report, this one gets going to merge with the general fund. So, and the last one I want to touch on is your liquid fuels fund. You can see the cash went from 226 to 22,000. That's because the prior year you had done quite a bit of borrowing for street work. In the prior years, and this year you spent quite a bit. But last year you spent 543, so this year you spent another 181. And that was kicked in with about 96,000 principal and 17 of interest, for a total of 13. And the other funds, the public safety fund, and that's you take the revenue in for the taxes, and that goes back.
So, summary conclusion?
Oh, you're pretty late.
Yeah.
And you're all aware of that. So you need to watch that. The other thing too is I had a management letter. I don't know if anybody had a chance to see it. There's a lot that goes on in the office, so you really need to stay on top of your bookkeeping. The last couple of years, Samantha was trying to do it. Last year we had a lot of issues with journal entries because they were getting things booked wrong, and they were trying to fix them, and then we had to come back in at the end of the year and fix them again. So I know money's tight, but you need to invest some money in the bookkeeping because you got money coming here that's got to be moved there. The other thing we did and that's been rectified in 2021, you had opened a streetlight tax, so that's a special revenue tax. Okay. Problem was we never opened up a special separate fund for that. And when I did the DCE report in my internal accounting, I did move it to a separate fund. But now that's gone. Anytime you set a separate tax up, you have to have a separate fund for it, a separate cash account. But now we've got rid of that millage. I know we're pretty high on millages, so you're really going to have to watch your spending.
Sadly, big items on the budget are untouchable.
And it's, you're a relatively small borough that can generate tax revenue. But you're all aware of it, and I just come here and reaffirm it. So you don't need me to tell you. But the biggest thing I like to see for 2021 is just stay on top of it. I told her that if you need any help, any questions, reporting activities, just call. I'd rather have a call now than come in at the end of the year and then have to go back.
In your introductory letter, you were comparing your audit in 2019 with that in 2020. You cite some deficiencies from 2019.
Yes.
Some of them were corrected.
Yes, they were.
And some of them were not.
Right.
When you see deficiencies that weren't corrected a year later, what's your response?
Well, I'm not happy, but it does happen. Sometimes it takes years for some of them to get fixed. And if you look at the first one I have, here was loan activity not getting booked correctly. You just got to pay attention to. One of the issues we're raising is that and we see this all the time where we go when they set up an ordinance. They always put in the fact that they need a separate sinking fund at the bank. Well, it's not really needed, and nobody really does it. But since that's what the ordinance says, so that's what we're complaining about. But the other thing is that they're not getting the principal and interest portions booked correctly in your accounts. And that should be fairly simple to do. When you get the bill, you see what part of it's principal and what's interest.
We're more than halfway through 2021. Do we know whether any of these deficiencies have been corrected since?
With the turnover, I would
the end of
probably say not.
2020?
I'm probably saying not. I haven't looked at it, but that would be my guess.
So I'm working on the escrow documentation section here right now.
And she said she could fix it.
Yeah,
That was her expertise.
Yeah, that's one of my areas. And permits, we can fix as well.
They have that problem with your permit people everywhere I go. They're not real big on documenting the calculations. Most of them are, they're doing computer and stuff. I
So
guess
you're saying our permit?
Yeah.
It's the company.
This past year, I didn't have any discrepancies, but that's because I've been looking at it for 3 or 4 years now, figured out their ways. If I see the same, I saw the same, I saw the same firm company in another place, I couldn't figure it out. So I complain about that.
In your opinion, do you
That's
think,
my job.
in your opinion, do you think these issues are reasonably easy to fix? Or does it?
It should
require
be.
a complete overhaul of certain processes?
It should be, but I caution that because I think you're short in the office, you know, of people. So I think there's a lot of rushing around to get it done. And I'm not, like Samantha, she had a finance degree, but I don't believe she was bookkeeper / accountant. When we go back to Marie was here, when we first got here many years with Lloyd, I used to tell him he was my hero because he was so old and still out here slogging away doing it. And I liked the way so much. But he was the old fashioned bookkeeper. He just loved he never got a journal entry he didn't like, you know, which is auditors don't like to see journal entries because that's where fraud can take place. You know, that's fun. So he was doing okay, but you know, eventually he left. And then Marie came in and she really got it with shape. And then you know, she left. It's been a struggle off and on since then. And I'll tell you right now, it's hard to find bookkeepers. You know, hard to find bookkeepers anyway. But we all know what the hiring requirement is. I mean, these aren't major deficiencies. It just makes my job a lot harder. And I get concerned sometimes you're not getting the proper information you should have tied out during the year.
Anyone else have a question or comment?
Other, I know you already raised the alarm bell about the escrow funds. Anything else you're especially concerned about?
Not at this point. I mean, as I'm learning, I'm probably looking significantly slower than Samantha was making my way through the process slower. So hopefully that negates out the journal, all the extra journal entries.
And the tax collector's issuing separate
Yeah,
checks
tax
now.
collector is
That
now
was a big-
issuing separate checks.
That was a big issue with all the different millages. You know, they weren't issuing, I couldn't beat that drum for a few years before they finally did, because the money would come in and then they'd have to break it out and move between this one, this one, this one. So, but if they're issuing separate checks now,
I get 4 checks every time I get.
so then they can just be directly deposited in the correct funds, so there's no journal entries or any movement like that. So that's correct a lot of it right there.
Well, there's no more questions. Thank you very much for your good service to the borough.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Next item on the agenda is consideration of consent agenda items. July 13th, 2021, Borough Council minutes, bills list for July 2021. Consider appointment of Lori Kesselman to the Parks and Recreation Committee, and consider appointment of Art Conover to the Financial Advisory Committee. I have a motion to
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
second. Any opposed? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. I shouldn't have said any further. The next item is resident remarks. These are things which are not on the agenda, and please keep me brief. 3 minutes or so, if it happens. Yeah, Lauren?
I just want to bring it to your attention that I am getting complaints from my neighbors about the traffic on Iron Hill Road, people blowing through the stop sign, people speeding, it's a cut-through road. So, since we don't have our own police anymore, we don't really see any police cars sitting in any driveways on our street anymore. People are taking advantage of that. There was a near miss the other day at that stop sign. Somebody blew right through it and almost caused another major accident. Last year, I think I was walking my dog up the street and I heard a doozy of an accident. By the time I got down to the bottom, I saw the wreckage. So I just want to make you guys aware that we're having another issue on Iron Hill Road, and I would like to hope that maybe our police can maybe spend a little bit more time, keeping an eye on the street and making sure. I don't know if there's anything we can do to make sure people stop at a stop sign. You know, it's there, there's a four-way stop, but people just come down the street or go up the street and they just blow right through.
Do you have the bars painted on your stop sign?
I'm not sure if there's bars painted.
We're missing bars after they've repaved, so if they're not there, we should get them back.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't,
I mean, the white lines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember them there.
Which stop sign?
The stop sign is Shady Retreat and Iron Hill Road.
Which your can we use your driveway?
Anytime,
What's the address?
122.
Would it help that Lauren got another neighbor or two to see if they would let you use their driveway?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have many complaints on this. Is the first we've had it on Iron Hill Road, so we do patrol it, obviously. One of our details is the stop signs at Iron Hill. We can't get it all the time,
Right.
so usually, where we sit where we're visible, so if we see a police car, obviously we can stop.
Right.
But we have a driveway. Where's 122
I'm about 3 doors down from the stop sign.
toward public?
No, towards Shady Retreat. Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, I just got a knock on my door on Sunday from, she's on the Doylestown Township side, because one side is Doylestown Township, the other side is New Britain Borough. She's on the Doylestown Town, so I don't know if she complained to her own police department. But she said she's been calling Crime Watch, so I'm not sure who that is. But just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Lauren, do you have a sense of whether traffic through that intersection has increased since the apartments were built?
Oh, yeah. Well, not even that, just since Hidden Meadows was built. You know, everybody comes through and goes down Iron Hill Road. Actually, the traffic on Shady Retreat has really increased. Yeah, from 202 to Iron Hill Road, you know, that section, because the traffic is really, really increased. Yeah, it used to be you drive down there, you would never see another car, and now you always have to make, and it's really narrow. It's so, if anybody's going too fast, I'm surprised there haven't been more accidents going around that curve, because people are always on the wrong side of the road. I don't think there's a line on that. There is, but I'm not sure. With all the new development coming in our area, I'm just noticing a real increase in traffic. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Usually, after any of the, the next item 6, review of written staff reports, elected official reports, namely the manager's report and the police report. Amanda?
So you have my written report, including the public works director's information, the budget to date, your finance team, and just a summary of what we've been working on. We're still dealing with waste management complaints. This past week, I didn't actually really get any today. I guess trash about tonight though, but last week wasn't too bad, so hopefully we're starting to make progress with them. Our contact is really good about getting back to us and lecturing his staff. Then on the flip side, his staff is ignoring everything and not the information not going back up the chain. I know we had missed pickups in one development because the truck couldn't get there, but they called dispatch but didn't bother to tell us. So I think that was on Iron Hill actually. It was. So once I found out, we were able to circle back around, but our contact didn't have any idea because he would have been the one that would have handled it. So they still have an internal communication problem that they're continuing to work through.
Do you know if they've improved their phone system? The one time I had to call them several months ago.
I
just don't
haven't
know.
heard too many complaints in the last couple of weeks. I know initially when that first set of bills was a nightmare for everybody, but it does sound like no one's really been complaining that they're stuck on hold again for an hour. Because usually they doesn't call me afterwards if they can't get through. So I haven't really had too many conversations with them.
Thank you.
Oh, and Captain, you're up next.
You should have the activity report in your packets. As I mentioned last night, the only thing is maybe up a little bit, fish funds is the unemployment fraud. that everybody's experiencing. It's not just your municipality, it's across everywhere. So that seems to have gone down now so far in the month of August, so maybe the state's finally kicking in and doing something about it. But for the most part, that's your part ones that are those frauds. No arrest, but that was probably the biggest item that was criminal occurring in the borough last month.
Any questions for the captain? Hearing none. On to the next. Committee activity review, questions and announcements.
Yeah, the CBC is still working on our car cruise / scarecrow festival to be held October 2nd with the rain date of the 9th in the shopping center here. I'm glad to see Lauren Frasco here. She's the chair of our community and business committee. And Lauren, if you would mind, if maybe you can update people on.
So I'm gonna show you what we've been working on. This is a flyer. It's not really finished. There's some changes that have to be made yet to it. But this is what we're trying to put together. So it's going to be called the Classic and Specialty Car Cruise and Scarecrow Festival. We're planning on doing it on October 2nd at the New Britain Town Center. We have so far vendors for music. We have the Theater Arts Center is going to do a performance. Would like to start advertising this. The only issue is getting these flyers. They require money. We don't have a budget. CBC does not have a budget. I don't know how it was ever expected that we were going to put on an event without a budget, but we have had some nice people in our who are members of the CBC that want to offer us sponsorships. So we have about $400 that's been pledged to the CBC for this event. They want to know who to write the checks to. I need that money so I can buy flyers, so that we can get more, so we can get some corporate sponsors, and we can get the word out so we can have a successful event. I heard tonight, things are not great with the budget, but I don't know if you have a couple of $100 that you can spare that I can go ahead and order flyers. We've worked out a budget. We came up that it's going to cost us between $750 and $1,000 to put together this event. I would like to be able to offer prizes to the participants, but we may have to use all the money just to put the event on if we don't get any money, any more sponsorship money or money from you guys. So I just was wondering if there was any money laying around at all that I could go ahead and buy the flyers. And if not, who we need to have the checks written out to, and when can I get the money if I get the checks to you soon?
Okay, Lori.
Well, maybe I should have gone with my committee report before Lauren did. So, for the finance committee, and I know council already knows this, the finance committee recommended to freeze all budgets, except for things that were absolutely necessary. And so, as a result, I'm going to switch committees to the Birdtown committee, which I'm also on. We decided to cancel the pop-up park for September as a result of the funding and COVID related things. So I guess any money that we would be spending on that, we won't have to spend due to the freeze, but you guys didn't know about that.
Mm-hmm. So is there money that far?
Can I ask a question? Do you know how many flyers you're looking to have printed and how much they could potentially
We're
cost?
looking at approximately 500 flyers to start, but we would also like to get some signage So I know that, I think I priced out the flyers, at about $200 for 500 flyers.
I'd
So,
like to donate that.
Oh,
This is
great.
my card.
thank
Call
you.
right now or something. I can-
Thank you so
Sure
much.
thing.
That's really appreciated. Yeah.
Your donations
Thank you
will
so
go to
much.
friends.
That's great.
No, you can, all the checks can be cut out to the borough.
Okay.
And then if they can do it or they can invoice us, then I can pay it that way too. So we
Okay,
can work
great.
it out, like you and I can work it out too, because if we need to, we can put it on the borough, I can pay them for them with the borough credit card out of the money that we get from sponsors.
Okay, because that was just it. I need to tell them how they're gonna get paid.
If they can invoice it, that would be perfect.
Okay, they will.
And I can pay it when I get the invoice in.
Okay, yeah, Minuteman Press is pretty good about that. Okay.
Yeah, they do, they already invoiced us already, so they shouldn't have a problem invoicing us.
Okay, great. I'll just let them know then, to invoice you guys. Well, I just want to thank you, and we're looking forward to having a really great event. And we will also, if you want to send us your logo, we can put it on,
Fantastic, thank you.
and we'll put it on some hard.
One way we're going to advertise this show, since I like going to car shows.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a classic show, I'm a classic
All
car.
donations get written to the borough?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody recommended that a really good way to advertise this was take these flyers to car shows and hand them out to people. I've had informal conversations with people that would like to come to an event like this. We can't call it a car show, as I've learned the lingo. A car show implies you're going to judge cars and you're going to give out prizes. A car cruise apparently means people just bring their cars. We're going to create a survey that says, pick your favorite car. And it might be as simple as, I like that red one, I like that blue one, and then we're hoping to give some, nominal prizes. An AutoZone would be somebody that may want to contribute a basket or something and have coupons for them. So we're hoping, just like with the farmer's market, it started off small and now it's grown into something that's an event for us. And thanks to Lauren and the CBC, we're hoping to get off on a really solid footing such that people in that world of car showing and the scarecrows would want to come back year after year. So we're building it as a family event. It's not a typical car show. I watch them on TV all the time. I like them because I just like looking at them. I have no clue what's under the hood. So, I couldn't be a judge per se. But we're not going to do that kind of show, and we're getting some positive feedback on it. So we're hoping that it becomes a success, and then a yearly event. I'm working on details that I'll give to Amanda. I've been dealing with the person who's in charge of this kind of stuff at Federal Realty. And, there's a lot of legal stuff that we have to iron out. I won't bore you with those details. Nothing is insurmountable there, so we should be able to get that going. And as I said, Lauren's done a great job with the committee, and people have been volunteering within the committee to do things. So, and again, thank you, sir. I didn't get your name.
My name is Todd Richmond.
Well, Todd, thank you so much. It's
You're
very
welcome. My
appreciated.
pleasure.
Bye.
Amanda, if you need to have if you want to go through the council to purchase those, I can write a check to the council if it's better for the council to do it that way.
Okay.
Or I can work probably with Lauren.
I mean, all of it's gonna come into the borough anyway, so it all comes to me,
Okay,
and then I just pay the bills. as they come in.
okay,
You can just write it to the borough.
okay, we'll do that.
Just for one last very quick note on the car show. We're thinking of the entertainment to be the same gentleman who sings at the farmer's market. I spoke with him and he's putting that date aside, so that may be the person that we get. People seem to like him and he would love to do this, he lives in Chelsea, so he's excited about it. So, we'll see.
Sounds good.
You've had a very good introduction to your part of the, surgical.
Give them whatever you want.
So we're good.
Yes, so as council saw, we circulated a draft resolution, which we'll go over, but we'll give Gavin and his team a chance to go over the project, what they're proposing. As you guys have know, this has been coming for some time now, so it's nice to see them here and they'll walk you through what they're proposing.
So while Rob is setting up the easel, I'll just introduce everyone. My name's Gavin Lebowski. I represent American Surgical at Todd Richmond and Rob Cunningham, who you all know, is the engineer of this project. As Michael said, we've gotten this project to the point now where we're capable of getting approved. We've received some review letters. We don't necessarily need to go through those unless you want to go through them line by line, but I can tell you that the Gilmore letter of May 11, 2021, the Karen issues are all well complied, and there's no issue in any of those comments that can't be addressed. The approval resolution is satisfactory. Obviously, the will comply is subject to the waivers being granted tonight, and again, we can go through those item by item if we want. They are listed in the submission of a waiver letter. I should say a review letter, a waiver letter that Ron prepared and submitted, and those are incorporated into the approval resolution. Just by way of background, this property sits at the corner of Sand Road and Industrial Drive. It was approved as a vacant or as a buildable lot many years ago, almost 20 years ago now, as part of a project that I think Carl Bodden did with some of those lots there. Peregrine actually has two buildings down at the end of New Britain Road, not far from here. They purchased this property in, I think, 2016. We were trying to rack our brains to remember the exact date. And around that time, Peregrine appeared before your zoning board and received some zoning relief that allowed it to develop the site with a building that looked very similar to this. 5 years has passed. Another building came up that Peregrine was able to expand into. And now they have a need to perhaps develop this site as well. So Peregrine has made a commitment to this community. That's pretty clear. They have over 50 employees, and they're a manufacturing company, which is something that we'd like to see in this country, obviously. It's high-tech manufacturing, good paying jobs in this borough particularly. So property itself is really nondescript. It's an acre. You can see that it's fairly normally shaped. It has an easement running around along the bottom of the neighboring properties, gains access to Industrial Drive. That will stay in place. There's two entrances, one for the parking and one for truck to back into for deliveries. This is a manufacturing use, so there are industrial type activities that occur at the site, tractor trailers, but it's clean manufacturing. It's high tech, it's medical, it's not spewing fumes and dust and making lots of noise. So it's really a great use for this site because you could get something that has all of these things at that site. So I know that Peregrine's excited to be there, excited to expand one day and move this project forward. So we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about their operations, about what the building's going to look like. It's pretty straightforward. It's a 6,300 square foot footprint, roughly. 2 stories in the basement, and obviously parking in the dock. That's about it.
Right. So any questions before I run through the resolution with you guys?
Planning has approved all of this.
Planning has approved it. Gavin and crew were in with us last week. And we walked through everything. Staff is satisfied with everything that the applicant has done to get this to the point where they're before you this evening. If they hadn't, they wouldn't be here. So if you'd like, I can walk through the approval resolution because it might answer some questions that you have. And then we can answer any additional questions you have and go from there. That sound good? All right, so Gavin accurately described the proposal. The waivers that are being requested are set forth in the approval resolution. So I don't have to read them twice. As I read through the conditions, the first several conditions relate to the waivers, so you'll catch on to them as we go through. So the first condition would be that the applicant has granted the requested waiver from SADO section 385-10 and 11 permits one submission for preliminary and final land development, just given the scope of what's being proposed here. That the applicant has granted the requested waiver from SADO section 385-17 to permit slopes of greater than 4:1 and to permit grading within 5 feet of the property line of the right of way. And that's subject to your engineer's final review and approval of the plan. Number 3, the applicant has granted the requested waiver from SADO section 385-21B to excuse the requirement of curbing along Industrial Drive simply because there is no curbing in that area. Condition 4, the applicant has granted the requested waiver from SADO section 385-22.c to excuse the requirement that 10% of the parking area consist of landscaped areas in order to provide the maximum amount of parking on the site. Condition 5, the applicant has granted the requested waiver from SADO section 385-22.e to permit parking spaces 9 foot by 18 foot. And I'll note that those parking spaces were already approved by the zoning hearing board, but there is a separate SADO requirement, which is why you see the waiver come up again. Condition 6, applicant has granted the requested waiver from SADO section 385-23 to excuse the requirement of sidewalk along Sand Road and Industrial Drive, given the lack of sidewalk in those areas, but the applicant has agreed to a fee in lieu of sidewalk, which I'll get to in a moment. The applicant has granted the requested waiver from SADO section 385-32 to excuse the requirement of installing streetlights along Sand Road and Industrial Drive. And again, that's subject to the payment of a fee in lieu, which I'll get to in a moment. Condition 8, the applicant has granted the requested waiver from SADO section 385-34.5 (3) to permit use of storm drainage pipes less than 18 inches. 9, the applicant has granted the requested waiver. The requested waiver from SADO section 385-39.f to excuse the requirement of the traffic study just based on the nature of the use. Condition 10, 11, 12, 13, the applicant will comply with the review letters of Gilmore and Associates dated May 11, 2021. The Borough Zoning Officer dated May 14th, 2021. The Bucks County Planning Commission to the extent required by the Borough, that letter being dated May 6th, 2021. And the Shade Tree Commission dated May 18th, 2021. And that includes the requirement, as requested by the Shade Tree Commission, that the applicant grant giant green arborvitae instead of the emerald green arborvitae that was initially proposed. Condition 14, the applicant comply with the initial subdivision approval that Gavin noted was recorded 20 years ago, which does have some conditions on the plan. Condition 15, that the applicant will pay a fee in lieu of the improvements I mentioned previously in the amount of $4,500, which number was reviewed by staff and approved. Condition 16, the applicant will execute a stormwater operations and maintenance agreement. 17, the applicant will execute a land development agreement. 18, the applicant will satisfy any outstanding invoices from the borough. 19, the applicant will comply with any and all conditions of the zoning hearing board, which basically just included a condition that the use comply with the representations made at that hearing. And condition 20, that the applicant abide by all the terms of the resolution itself. So that is what's before you this evening. Again, it's been vetted by staff over the last several months and is ready for your approval this evening if you so choose. I do not know the resolution number, but Amanda might.
13.
Resolution 13 of 2021. Any questions for the applicant or for me or Amanda or Karen?
I have one question. I went through everything in our packets pretty carefully today. I asked Amanda for some additional documents that weren't in our packet, specifically regarding the landscaping, which I'm always interested in. There are some existing shade trees along both Industrial Drive and Sand Road. I think they're vapors. I didn't see anything in the documents about what is going to happen to those street trees. Some are in better shape than others. Is there a plan for those trees?
So those trees were planted when the property was originally subdivided as street trees.
Right.
We're required to meet the borough street tree requirement. Some of them will remain. The ones along Sand Road, we don't need to touch. We're not doing anything along there. We're able to save one along Industrial Drive. Unfortunately, where our driveways fall and other improvements, we the Can't Save, I think there's 3 others along Industrial Drive. We will be replacing those, we'll be meeting the borough requirement. So I think we'll end up with about 8 or 9 trees along the frontage, where maybe there's 6 now. So, they will be probably taken out. I think they're a little too big to properly transplant now, so I think it's a 2.5 or 3-inch tree goes in place, and we'll take, we'll replace those. So, unfortunately, they'll be destroyed, but they will be replaced.
And replaced with what?
We're actually expecting maples to go with the existing maple for maintaining.
I have a question for the landscaping, and Tom, you might know they're talking about, where you're talking about putting the giant arborvitaes, but they're down in the nature center, they're gonna eat those.
These particular recommended arborvitae are the ones that are most resistant. These giant.
Because they end up, they wind up looking like
Arborvitae
eerie all the way.
are too big, but that's my understanding anyway. I did look those up. Shade trees
They're around the tracks, yeah.
comments about them being more deer resistant. That seems right.
Correct. They'll do better than the regular arborvitae, and I think that's why the Shade Tree Commission kind of pointed in that direction.
I saw there were 2 red oaks planned, and I saw the Bucks County Planning Commission's comment on the oaks. They're a little leery about planting the oaks because of oak wilt disease.
Yep.
You share that concern? I'd like to see oaks planted. I don't know if red oaks are more susceptible.
I'll talk to my landscape designer. We did note that the planning commission asked us to look into it. So, as we revise the plan and get it back in front of Gilmore, we'll take a look at it and kind of discuss with their staff to make sure we
I
have.
mean, I'd like to see as many native trees planted as possible. About half the trees on this plan are native. The maples would be native, the oaks would be native. So if you don't plant the oaks, I would hope that you would replace those 2 oaks with something native.
Understood.
Anything else? Well, I have a motion to accept, make a resolution.
To adopt the resolution as drafted, resolution 13 of 2020.
I make a motion to adopt, resolution 2021-13 as stated.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Take care.
What's your time?
Well, I think it's probably gonna take another few months for the to finish the development, and then start to work with different contractors to get estimates. So I'm hoping sometime in 2026.
That's great.
All right. The next is the town center mixed use overlay ordinance draft.
So tonight, I know there's an earlier discussion about this, basically, I would just like some direction from all of you as far as moving forward, not moving forward, any changes you would like to see, any different vision that you would like that area to look like compared to what's presented. Since I wasn't here when the process started, I was just hoping to kind of move it forward in some capacity, even just moving forward and tabling it for a little while, moving forward and rewriting it from scratch. So there's no action needed on this tonight. It's more of a, does anybody have any direction, opinions, comments, anything like that?
Before we open that discussion, the planning commission has now gone through this 3 separate times. And the planning commission unanimously moved it to you with their approval.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm good with moving forward. I just think that it's so complicated and it's of such consequence that we should discuss it when we have more than 4 council members present. So I would suggest we table it until next month when everybody is here.
Is there anything more Amanda and I can get to you guys to help you think it through? because we're happy to do that. So as Amanda noted, she just came into this. Sam kept me sort of to the side a little bit, mostly for fiscal reasons, which makes perfect sense. But is there anything we can get you to help you sort of envision this thing? I know we have one potential project that who's attended all the meetings, so he's certainly very interested in it. You can always, regardless of the ordinance, we can always work with them to sort of think it through. So we just need something from you guys so we know where to go next. And if it's just let's push pause and wait until next month, that's fine.
I'm for moving it forward. I think that with each project that comes in, you still have to go through the whole process of looking at each individual project. But I'm in favor of moving forward with overlaying that area.
Is there anything within the overlay that you have an objection to, or are you generally signing as written right now?
I'm generally fine with it.
Is everybody, so the general concept of mixed use in that area, we all in agreement at least on that we like that idea, I think? Okay, well, that's good.
Well, I can live with it, but my issue is that we asked, and then part of this is the transition in management. We specifically asked to see the setbacks from the.
So I have a request for independent right
Yeah.
now, they're working on
But-
getting you.
I mean, just for the record, I don't know what the right of ways are now. I don't know what the frontage setback is going to be, because they were talking about it from the right of way and such, but not knowing that. So what I really wanted to see, perhaps from, and Samantha's probably could do it, is a sketch showing the center line of the road, the curve of the road, the right of way, the ultimate right of way, and where, according to the overlay district, is the frontage going to be. I was stopped by the village up there, and the setbacks there are 16 feet from the building to the curb. We obviously have some complaints, oh, it is too closed in. I don't think that's the case, but on the other hand, 8 foot is really way too close to the road, and I don't know where it is. So that's the main thing that I would like to see clarification, because I'm particularly concerned of the streetscape. Once you get back from the street, we're off into things that I don't think, frankly, the borough has any control over. I hate to see buildings with vinyl siding and, keep looking stuff, but we can't. I don't think we can require that. But it's also not clear to me how many buildings we're going to have on those lots. Reading that if this building is so many square feet, and if it's that building, it's so many, and I can't envision, again, what we're looking at with the gatherings. I realize it's not practical perhaps to have a sketch plan, but at least with the gatherings, we had some idea, well, here was the building was going to be, and it's going to go off in this direction, and here's the general parking, and anything that could give us some idea what this is going to look like. Because I agree that the plan is difficult to read. It's not at all intuitive. And, maybe that's because it envisions a multiplicity of uses, but maybe if without hugely impacting the financing, it was shrunk down to, okay, here's what's actually likely to be built. Then that clears away all the other stuff that isn't going to be built on the.
So are you saying like a simpler ordinance? Is that what it means?
Yeah, it's hard to go through that. I had to go dig out and find out, how many square feet is in 1/8 of an acre and 1/4 of an acre. And it's even saying that, then it's hard to know how much open space is there going to be around this particular unit? Again, it's hard to, and I don't know if any of you have experienced it, it's really hard to envision with a great variety of buildings that are imagined or allowed, what are we gonna get here?
I would also like to hear what our 3 other colleagues have to say too. if there's
Yeah, I'm
any
gonna,
concern.
probably, if you guys give me feedback tonight though, or if you have anything later, you can send me an email too, I can sort through it that way as well, and I'll ask about it then too.
Yeah, I know Robin would like to be part of the discussion, and I would really like to hear what John has to say.
There was also, I thought at the beginning, when we first talked about the overlay district, there was a discussion that, well, one of the goals, which I think David mentioned in particular, was to increase the tax revenue for the borough. But I haven't seen any guesstimate as to what sort of, what this would be under the proposed uses. It didn't work out very well for us before in the police merger, assuming that there was going to be a great savings, but not actually having cranked the numbers to see what they would be. And I hate to do that again, so I would like to know what, if we can estimate what the tax revenue will be from the regular zoning to the overlay district. As you all know, we are hard up for money in this borough. And I think that's, those are my questions or uncertainties.
Michael, one question.
Yeah.
The overlay will set the boundaries for development. Each development will come before the planning commission as well as this body
That's right.
for review.
Yep.
So-
That's right.
Doing a estimate, the only project we know for sure, well, we know is in the planning, is the project that has been there, that sort of began this process to begin with, to set boundaries and to set a guideline for anyone wanting to take advantage. So Peter, to answer your question, it's literally impossible to answer how much revenue we're going to see based on the fact that we only know of one right now.
Yeah,
There may be others.
So you could, and again, it's all somewhat hypothetical, right? But we could take a look, Amanda and I, at that one project, just to give you some sense of what it could mean.
Well, realistically, no, the church is 3 acres. They're not going anywhere. The veterinary is 2.5 acres. That's the one that's in
Correct.
question. The pool property, well, which is not in play, but that's 2 acres, which is arguably proportional. And the dentist is 0.57 acres. So I think if we can run the numbers for the property for the vet, it's perfectly reasonable. That will give us based on acreage, some idea of what it would be if when these other property, if and when these other properties are developed.
Sure.
And right, and I do want to start with, ideally, you want to start with what is as close to a real development as you can.
And we could always, as we keep thinking this through, we can always hone down the ordinance a little bit as we move forward if we need to, knowing that that's a real project that I think people are relatively supportive of, right? So, okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. The property owner is certainly entitled to develop his land in consistent with the ordinances.
Maybe we'll re-engage that discussion with them. I know he's here, but maybe we can restart that discussion with them as well.
Yeah. that would be helpful to sit down with you and look at what you want to do, and that way it gives us an idea of what you wanna do, we can talk about it, then we kinda have a basis where Mike and I can try to figure
Yeah.
out everything.
Because like with that project, a lot of these complications, I mean, that's not a terribly complicated project, right? So if we start with something that's a little easier to comprehend, maybe we're just trying to bite off too much at the same time or something like that. I'm not sure.
Have the owners of the shopping center weighed in on this? Have they ever indicated how this might?
Well, right
impact
now,
their plans?
they're still not part of it, right? Isn't that how we, yeah, they're not part of
No, I
it.
think they are, they all love it.
I thought-
No, we pulled them out.
No, we did, we separated them out.
Did they get some?
Yeah, they got pulled out of it. You may,
I may have
with
seen
all the
it.
transition, you may have seen it on map.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's a great,
Then the shopping center is not part of the mix.
correct.
Right?
Correct, it got pulled out. And so if that's the case, maybe we are just thinking, maybe we're biting off too much and we should wait to bite off that much when the shopping center's in play. I don't know, that's for you guys to think about, but getting this other project moving could be nice.
Well, to quote David, and Lauren, the planning commission has spent a lot of time on this.
Right,
And
right.
we're
Of course.
not that far from the finish line. It's really, I don't wanna say like building a model, but it
No,
comes down to
okay,
that.
great, that makes
Yeah,
perfect
that's-
sense, that makes
A
perfect.
good way to approach it, it makes it much more sense in how Mike and I can move forward with this ordinance.
Great, and then that way we don't have to hack at it, we're just,
Right,
okay,
so
perfect, that's
having a
great.
meeting with you soon would be great.
That'd be perfect. Like I said, I'm really thankful that you're doing this for the community, and we would like to move forward as at an appropriate time. You don't want to rush it, take your time, but we are very interested. And I've been attending these meetings personally the time.
You have, yeah. And that could be the project that, spurs everything on that end, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
It's really
plan, there's a rough plan. I mean, it's not final, obviously, we don't know what the ordinance will look like. There's a rough plan, we can show you that's.
That would be
that makes
perfect, yeah,
sense.
that would be a good base
And you
for
can
us to.
calculate the tax revenue you will get from that plan,
Yes,
Perfect.
which would be a model for other planning.
Yes.
Which
Great.
will-
Thank you.
Thank you so
That's
much.
great.
Yeah.
I think we got a plan.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel a lot better about the ordinance.
It's always good when you have a plan.
Well, yeah, because we've been circling around it, but now I think we understand.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
have a better understanding finally.
Very
That was
good.
really my goal of that tonight, was to try to get a better understanding.
Okay, item C is withdrawn because John Wolf is not here to discuss this. So, but that's for the windows for the Borough property, for the Miller property. Are we discussing anything on the?
Yeah, so all we need from you this evening, as you know, we had to cancel our, we didn't have to cancel, it was voided, the road program for 2021 because of an error with the newspaper. All we need from you this evening is authority for Amanda and I to reach a final agreement with the contractor that we had to cancel the contract with. So it's on the terms that we discussed previously. Just a motion to authorize us to finish that conversation, that's all.
I'll make a motion to have you wrap up that
Sounds
discussion.
good.
Second? Okay,
I'll second it.
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
And the final number on it, we're not hiding it, it's a confidential discussion. As soon as it's all entered, it'll be a public document, everybody will know.
Item E, consider award of,
Tonight is the night in which we pull things off the agenda. Unfortunately, we tried to do the RFP for the cleaning contract by soliciting quotes under the $21,000 mark. But we needed 3 quotes. Unfortunately, I was only able to get 2 quotes. All of them came in at under $5,000 a year. It was great. But we're going to have to advertise, so the paper will be, we'll tap into some of the money in the paper also for the advertising issues. So we're gonna have to advertise the cleaning contract RFP, because that way it doesn't matter how many responses we get. So it will just be delayed by another month with it. But I was happy with the 2 that we did get in.
That's good. So they're aware of this and they will.
They will be aware of this tomorrow morning, but I wanted to go over it with you first. Yeah, it's the same thing, everything's, we just have to advertise it in the paper, so.
Any other business?
Sunshine Act, can Mike just? talk
Oh,
about
oh,
that?
yeah, sure. So as everyone saw, there was a recent amendment to the Sunshine Act that requires the posting of agendas 24 hours in advance of the meeting. The question came up, how does that impact our committees, right? So the way that the borough has always operated, because you do give your committees, some of them actually have spending power, but they all have a relatively broad amount of power in terms of how much you rely upon what they do. So my office has always recommended that the committees comply with the Sunshine Act unless there's an exception, which we work through on a case-by-case basis. So the committee should be posting the agendas 24 hours in advance and at the meeting site and complying with the edited provisions of the Sunshine Act.
So posting means putting it on the borough website.
Yes.
All committee meetings are going to be in this building
Yes.
moving
Yeah.
forward?
Yeah.
So do we actually post a paper agenda?
Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
so I've been
Yeah, it has to
continuing,
be.
I brought agendas with me every single time I'm out of Force Habit. So they've always been back there for everyone. According to, I think with the new sunshine law, that we actually may have to hand them out. Because everyone's supposed to get one, so if they're not taking them.
So committee chairpersons will send you the agenda
Yes.
and you'll make paper copies?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll have paper copies.
It's all about transparency, so it's fine. It might be a little overkill, but that's fine. We'll do what the law tells us to.
No.
Posting on the website makes perfect sense, obviously. There's no issue there.
And they also said too, that you post it 24 hours in advance and you're not allowed to make any changes to the agenda
Right.
unless it's something that is time sensitive that
Yeah.
has to be voted on immediately.
Yeah, it might be helpful for Amanda
I'm
or
gonna
me
send-
to do, just like a 2-paragraph summary, because so if an emergency comes up, you're still able to address it. But there are specific limits that they place on what you can do. Most of the committees, all the committees that are just recommending bodies don't have much to worry about with that. It's really only when you're spending money or entering into a contract that you can't do it at the last minute. But of course, there are exceptions to every rule. So we'll make sure you guys have something so you comply with everything like you always have, and we'll be good to go.
Any
Is that good,
other,
Tom? Is that, yeah, okay.
any other business? Yes. Yes.
I just had something that I didn't mention during committee report. So something that the finance discussed in trying to find ways to save money was that the newsletter could be sent out electronically with an opt-in for a paper copy. So, and I think that's probably a really good way to save money. I think there are a few residents that would opt in to have a paper copy sent, but that should save us quite a bit of money.
What happens if people don't have email though?
Well, then they opt for the paper copy.
How are they gonna do that?
They
You mean
can
if
call,
Yeah.
we put it in the newsletter that here's the
Yeah.
policy going forward, then they'll get the newsletter and
yeah, like.
And we can also post it on our
Yeah,
website and
absolutely. Everything.
That's a great idea, Mark. Yeah.
Everyone.
So, but like, I think we have the one that we're trying to put together right now, so if anybody has anything, please submit everything, in the next 5 days. And then we can put a blurb in there that this will be the last mailed out newsletter, it will be electronic going forward. However, if you would still like a paper copy, here's how to get on that list to be mailed a paper copy, so.
Is there a rough estimate on how much we save?
It'll be about $2,500.
Now, is there, this leads to something that I've been interested over the years. Would it be possible to have the newsletter come out 4 times a year?
We would, yeah, if we do it electronically like that, we would definitely be able to increase the frequency, because we'd be cutting down dramatically on the printing and the mailing
'Cause I think
costs.
4 makes sense, for each quarter, for
Right.
each season, for each whatever.
We used to do it for.
I know in the past, we couldn't do it.
Right, and that would give us the flexibility to do more by not mailing them out to every single person.
before you promise that, keep in mind staff time is a limitation too. So
Bonnie enjoys doing this stuff too.
Oh, boy.
Do we need
It's her, she's got that graphic design background. so she
Yeah.
does.
Do we need any kind of formal resolution to go from 3 to 4, or is that just? an
No, it'll
internal-
just be folded into the budget situation and part of the overall 2022 budget discussion.
No, it's a good point about a staff time, so if that's something, they feel they can handle, and maybe we can do that.
I think we would be able to handle it.
So Laurie mentioned that the finance committee is recommending that all committees freeze their spending. We haven't talked about that at all. Are we mandating that at this point?
Good question.
And just so you know, Amanda, you won't get a thing for the newsletter from me about Papa Park because we're not having it as a result of.
Right, I figured that.
Yeah.
I saw that email.
Tom, to answer your question, which is a good question, if you want that to be the policy, there's two things. One, Amanda has some control as the primary fiscal officer for the borough. But yes, it would be good if you gave her specific direction. A vote would be ideal, but just some direction so she knows what to do.
I mean, how dire is the situation? I mean, committees have budgets. If they're not free to spend the money that's been allocated to them, they need to know. And does that mandate come from Amanda, or is that something council has?
Yeah, so Amanda has the authority to do it, provided you give her that authority. So it starts with you. It really does. So if you want to give Amanda the flexibility to make that determination, you could do that, or you can simply say, a halt on all committee spending until further notice.
I mean, right now it's a recommendation. Amanda suggested it might just be temporary.
So if you want to give Amanda flexibility, you would allow her to control the situation and report back to you. If you want to make it more specific, well, I guess, what would you prefer, Amanda? Would you prefer direction from council so that it's
Yeah,
easier
I
to manage the
mean,
committees?
yes, I
or-
prefer direction, even if it's something that before anyone spends any money, if the request is submitted and analyzed before it's approved and spent.
So I think something that will be helpful to you in making this decision is finance says that we're about $50,000 short of what we projected we would be at. And that's about $30,000 less than we have. So that's the reason for the recommendation.
The tax revenue is coming in higher, so what we discussed during exec session, that number has shrunk dramatically in the last month, as we're getting more tax revenue. But it is still
I mean, I think what you just said makes perfect sense. I think you should send word out to committee chairs that any spending should be pre-approved by you.
Okay.
Instead of saying, just stop all spending, just let people know that.
Yeah, is council okay with that? Just be ready, because Amanda says no a lot.
And not all committees have it.
Right, and not all committees have a budget.
So like, as you guys are fundraising, obviously, if you're spending within the amount that you fundraise, I can't tell you no. Because you're spending what you brought in specifically for your event.
I think having you superintendent is good. Council can't give up power to a committee, so therefore, the obvious is you're so far, I guess, a third party here in all discussions.
That's right.
Okay.
All right.
Is that all you need, Amanda? You good?
That's right.
I noticed one issue on here, CVC is full,
Okay. I will fix it.
which is a good.
Oh, that's right, it is full now, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Great.
And
Yeah,
should all of these say Nat Burkhardt Hall, that all the.
Yes, yep, everything will get updated, Mr. Schumer.
And we are going to be submitting something from the CBC regarding our show. When do you plan to print that?
Ideally, the newsletter would go out around September 1st. It would take a couple of days. And we'll see, because obviously running into Labor Day, it might be delayed a little bit.
All right. Any other comments, discussions?
I just have a
Yes.
question. Has there been any communication with Global regarding the gas station?
Oh,
Yes.
Good question.
We're working on it.
Did they give you a timeline?
They have to finish with Bucks County Conservation District, and I reached out to them yesterday or Friday. The Bucks County Conservation District told me that they should have their letter issued at the end of the week. I believe, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the final piece to the puzzle. I have building permits proof that I'm already doing.
We would not have any more plan issues from that point, so we still have to go through the recording process.
Which that won't take too long.
No, I mean, we're gonna have to handle them through the
Yeah,
entire
and that's-
recording process, but we'll do it because it looks terrible, so.
Okay.
So we are working with them. I am very strict about how things get done. I've worked on a ton of development projects. Even Karen's used to be being the person that if you don't listen, you don't follow the rules, I'll put public works or a cop in your parking lot until you start on time. So once we get them started, we'll handhold them from,
They don't know who they're dealing with, do they?
I think he got an idea when we had a call about going to the conservation district. I think he may let us figure it out.
Thank you.
Any further comments, discussions? Hearing none, we have a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Good evening to you all.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for coming and your interest.